WikiLeaks has done it again. The website has leaked 250,000 diplomatic cables, and the United States is scrambling to contain the damage. Thousands of the documents are marked secret, and they contain unfiltered details about American foes and friends from around the world. Senior correspondent Terry Milewski got a chance to read many of those cables today. Here's what he has to say. Terry?
Well, Wendy, this is not so much a leak, it's a deluge. WikiLeaks has poured out its first batch of brutally candid diplomatic reports showing how the U.S. Foreign Service really views a treacherous world.
It is no surprise that topic A is the nuclear ambitions of Iran's Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. But what is surprising is the volume of calls for a strike on Iran, not just from Israel, but from Iran's Arab neighbors. Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah is just one. The cables refer to the king's frequent exhortations to the U.S. to attack Iran and so put an end to its nuclear weapons program. He told you to cut off the head of the snake. Another big topic is the already nuclear Pakistan, where the cables suggest the U.S. has been trying to remove highly enriched uranium from a Pakistani research reactor to stop it falling into the wrong hands. But it says the Pakistanis refused because the local media would portray it as the United States taking Pakistan's nuclear weapons. And in between Iran and Pakistan lies a chronically corrupt Afghanistan. Speaking of President Hamid Karzai's brother, U.S. diplomats reported that while we must deal with Ahmed Wali Karzai, he is widely understood to be corrupt and a narcotics trafficker. Yet another startling detail in the cables is that Washington is apparently spying on the UN Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon. The U.S. is said to be looking for biometric data and even credit card numbers for top UN officials. Then there is China, in public a new friend to the U.S., but the cables blame the Chinese Politburo for hacking into Google's email system, saying this was part of a campaign of computer sabotage by the Chinese government.
Now that is not really a surprise, nor are details like Syria's President Assad sending weapons to Hezbollah, or Libyan President Gaddafi keeping company with a so-called voluptuous blonde. But it's still astonishing to see all of this made public, and there is more to come. Later this week, Wendy, we expect to see some reports from the U.S. Embassy here in Ottawa referring to Canada's inferiority complex. But if so, we're getting off lightly. With all the calls for a military strike, it seems that Iran has a lot more to worry about. Wendy.
I'll say thanks, Terry. And U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton called Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister about the leaks this weekend. Today, Lawrence Cannon released a statement saying irresponsible leaks like these are deplorable. And the White House said such disclosures put at risk our diplomats, intelligence professionals, and people around the world who come to the United States. As Terry mentioned, the cables are full of details from around the world. Here are a few more. A U.S. ambassador to impoverished Zimbabwe wrote that President Robert Mugabe believed his 18 doctorates give him the authority to suspend the laws of economics. The U.S. Embassy in Moscow said Russian President Dmitry Medvedev plays Robin to Vladimir Putin's Batman. And a British paper reports that U.S. officials were shocked at the rude behavior of Prince Andrew when he was abroad. WikiLeaks says it released the documents in the name of truth and transparency. But many people think other factors should also be considered. Peter Ackman has that story.
In this Montreal internet cafe, between the online gamers, web surfers are looking for the latest secret documents. But what are they finding?
I think it's really useless information. That's what I think. I think that it just sort of draws away from the actual crises.
But these leaks have created a crisis of their own.
It's almost as if the State Department has had a train wreck and everyone's rubbernecking.
And it started a media bonanza, tens of thousands of tweets and dozens of blogs and online articles.
WikiLeaks has continued to refine its coordination with media outlets, first coordinating with 3 media outlets for the releases over the summer, and then this fall coordinating with a broader range of outlets.
But this former diplomat says in the past news outlets wouldn't run sensitive information like this.
If there's leaking of all this material, candor goes out the window. Without candor, you can't have non-honest negotiation.
But this international affairs expert says this scandal shows a hidden side of diplomacy.
What we've seen in this latest leak scandal is the nasty underbelly of diplomatic relations, which consists a lot of intelligence, espionage on allies and friends, bad-mouthing allies, and disparaging the war efforts of allies.
Now, many social media watchers say this information becomes more dangerous with the posting than reposting because it risks being read entirely out of context. Peter Ackman, CBC News, Montreal.